mulata. Caminas. Ay, mamita, caminando. Caminas. Dale un poquito para acá. Caminas.
I am getting ready to jump out of my seat because of who I have sitting next to me. I have the amazing Ivonne Coll. I've known this woman for a long time, and you guys probably just know her from Jane the Virgin, where she plays the abuela. But this woman is an incredible powerhouse in theater, music, and film. So please, without further ado, help me welcome Ivonne Coll. What made you want to be an artist?
I partook on a beauty contest in Puerto Rico, and I won it. And after I won it, they gave me like a talent thing to see if I could act for Paquito Cordero, which was the biggest producer in Puerto Rico of sitcoms at the time. I auditioned and I liked it. And I was a student at the University of Puerto Rico at that time. So I started to go between the Miss Puerto Rico things and everything. I started to go a lot to the TV Telemundo, which originated in Puerto Rico, by the way, the Telemundo channel. And I started to get away from my psychology studies, and I got bit by that bug. And then I decided I didn't want to be the next door neighbor who would ask for coffee all the time with her boobs like this. So I decided to be a PA for him and work with as an assistant to Lucecita Benitez and Chucho Avellanet, which were the biggest musical stars at the time. And so I traveled with them, I did press for them, I co-wrote their shows. So unbeknownst to me, I was getting prepared for this, but I didn't know. I had no idea that I was going to be an actress ever in my whole life. I never dreamt it. I studied with Walter Mercado when I was 5 years old.
Wow.
That's how I started. I belonged to the baby ballet, the Walter Mercado, in my hometown. He would come from his hometown, Ceiba, to Fajardo. And I was 5, 6. And I remember when I was 6, that was my debut on a stage for the American soldiers in the military base in Ceiba, Puerto Rico. And I did a Spanish flamenco thing, and I did a ballet number with Walter. But my mother never thought that I would be in show business. She was like, no, this is for your refinement, to be distracted, to not be around in the streets doing anything else but, home to this. And then when I revealed that I wanted later on to be an artist, she was like, no.
The pageant you did was the pageant that you became Miss Puerto Rico.
Yes, the pageant was for the Miss Universe.
Yes. So it wasn't just a pageant. You just threw it away like, and then I did this little pageant. I was in this little pageant. No, you were Miss Puerto Rico for Miss Universe. That was huge.
And actually in the Miss Universe, we had to do sing a song and move, while the other girls get ready, the finalists. And I kept saying, why isn't everybody here rehearsing? Is because they knew already who the 15 were going. Very interesting, but it's okay. I had my share of doing the, if they could see me now, my little hometown pals, they shout ole and start to dance the cha-cha-cha. That's all I did, that little number. And I kind of got bit by the bug,
Now, after that, you got your own television show.
Yes, because also I was an haute couture runway model before the Miss Puerto Rico.
Oh, Is that what got you to do the pageant?
Yes, also my mother was the one who got me to the pageant, so I would make some money to have my master's degrees paid by somebody else but her. But but the money never appeared, so there I was with a crown on a title and no money. Somebody took the money. But because I was an haute couture model at the time, I could get all my clothes for free from all the haute couture people in Puerto Rico, the designers. So I was always looking good. After I finished with Lucecita and Chucho, I started to work as a showgirl in a musical Vegas review that came from Puerto Rico. And I thought, why not? Let me try. And they took me. So there I was with the bananas and the things on my head and modeling. And the showgirls, all you do is the, whoa, yo, opa, 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 zapatapatam, and then you walk the other way. That's it. So they would hear me singing, the producers, in my bathroom, in my shower, or showering, and they offered me to be the singer-dancer of the show. And I went to a friend of mine because I thought, I'm not going to dance in a bikini. And I mean, sing in a bikini because I knew that was a vedette in Puerto Rico and in Latin America. So I went to my friend Jorge Cordova, who was a classic piano player, and I said, tell me if I can sing. So he tried out and he said, yes, you can. We're going to train you. And we're going to make a Marlene Dietrich, Rita Hayworth kind of figure. That's what you're going to do. And we're going to lower your voice because you're an alto. And we're going to sing very low. And this is what we're... So he designed my personality. So I started to do the clubs around town. And I was very lucky that the best club in town hired me immediately because it was like a novelty to see a Miss Puerto Rico singing all of a sudden. And so one of the producers of Channel 11 was looking for an alternative to Iris Chacon because they had created the show.
And Iris Chacon was the big thing.
The big butt. I mean, hello.
Before J-Lo.
Yeah, before
It
J-Lo,
was
before
Iris
Kim Kardashian,
Chacon.
there was
Yes.
a big butt. And she would flaunt it in front of the cameras. And she would dance with the G-string and doing the rumba. She was una rumbera that we hadn't seen that since the 50s in the Mexican cinema, that Cuban rumberas were like the stars. So this TV channel, Telecadenas Perez Perry, which was a Puerto Rican channel, built her up. And after they built her up, she left for WAPA TV. So they felt betrayed and they started to scout around town. Who can we build up that will compete with her? And so I was there doing my thing. So they approached me, they invited me to have a meeting with all these executives in the TV station, and I met with, they showed me their ideas, and I said, yeah, but I don't dance in a bikini, and I don't dance like Iris Chacon does. This is another style. I do glamour, Hollywood, I do other, like boleros, sexy slinking over the piano, and you know what Michelle Pfeiffer did many years
Yes.
ago in the...
Later.
That
She would
was
do it later.
very
Yes.
later, exactly. That's what I used to do. So they went like, okay, no problem. They told me you have to have a theme song. I remember that with Lucecita, there was a Brazilian singer in the thing that she won in a competition that gave us a little record, a 45 RPM record that was País Tropical. And I put it on and I went like, okay. Moro, soy de un país tropical, donde habita el mar y el sol, y una chica llamada Ivonne Coll. That was, and the Yo Les Traeré, Mi Sabor Tropical. You can get it in YouTube now because a friend of mine
wow.
they took my recording and he put like all the photographs of it and some videos. So they sent me to Argentina to do a record so that I would have playback music so that they wouldn't have to have the orchestra all the time in the show. I requested black dancers because in Puerto Rico you barely see any black people on TV. And so back then I said, no, I want 6 black dancers. And so they got the black dancers and then they fired a choreographer. So therefore they recast the dancing and it became like more mixed instead of all these wonderful black young men that I had. But the show took. It was called Una Chica Llamada Ivonne Coll. And it took and it lasted for 2 years on the air. And then while I was doing the show, Mauricio Garces comes in from Mexico. I had Armando Manzanero, Celia Cruz. I had big stars in my show. And Mauricio Garces, big Mexican star, he goes like, you need to be in a movie. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to be in your movie because, you know, all his movies were with girls, you know, dancing in a bikini alrededor de la piscina, you know, just shimming away. And I'm saying, I don't want to have my debut. Well, you have to start somehow. And I was like with my desire to maybe go into film when in walks one of my boyfriends back then with Tony Martinez, who was a Puerto Rican actor who did the real McCoys here for many years. And he played Pepino. He had retired to Puerto Rico. He comes in and he says, what are you doing here? Very nice to meet you. You're a comedian. You're an actress. You don't even know it. And I said, oh my God. And this was after The Godfather, because in The Godfather was when I decided that I wanted.
Okay.
Because they cast me for the singing thing because I didn't even know who Coppola was. I didn't know who Pacino. I didn't know anybody. I was insulated in my island, 21, 22 years old. What the hell? You don't care about anything else. So when I went to do The Godfather in Santo Domingo, and I saw Pacino going to do the scene where he kisses his brother, I had never seen anything like that in my life. And that's when I decided, I want to learn to do that. How do you do that? And so Theodora Van Runkel, who was there, she was the costume designer, she said, Strasberg is here. I'll introduce you to him. He's the teacher. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I met Strasberg in Santo Domingo. He was there in the same hotel that I was. That's when I decided to go back to Puerto Rico to how do I do this? And I would tell my director and my producers in the show, I want to be an actress. And they're like, yeah. Camera number 2, we're going to pan through her cleavage now. So we're going to take it this way. And then camera number 1, just take her legs and we're going to be punning down her thigh. Blah, 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 blah. Nobody took me seriously because I was just a sex symbol thing. When this man meets me...
You were a beauty queen.
And when this man meets me, he goes like, you're not even sexy, this thing that you're doing. You're an actress. You don't even know it. Let me guide you. And he became my mentor. And let me tell you something. When I came to the States, I never told anybody that I was a beauty queen for many years because I thought it would take away from me as an actor. And what happened was I went to Sundance Theater Lab to do the play that Jose Rivera wrote with me, The Adoration of the Old Woman. We were workshopping it there. And the managers that I had then, they wrote it into my bio. When I go to the tent to have lunch with everybody because they give you, the free lunch and whatever. So everybody's like, hi, Miss Puerto Rico. And I'm like, what happened here? They had put it in my bio. So since like maybe 2004 is that people have known that I was a Miss Puerto Rico. I didn't want that to detract from my craft. Right.
So you went to New York and you started...
No, I came here.
First?
Because,
Okay.
Because Tony, his ex-wife was here with his kid. And he had studied here with David Alexander, who was a great acting teacher back then. And he said, I'll take you away from Puerto Rico. If you go to New York, they'll call you to Puerto Rico. We don't want that. We want you to forget about Puerto Rico, forget about the nightclubs. You're not a nightclub singer, you're going to be an actor. And this is what you're going to do. You're going to study and get away from this. So he brought me to LA where I didn't know anybody, put me in Burbank Boulevard and Victory Boulevard in the middle of I don't know where. I didn't know anybody. I came here without knowing anybody, without knowing the language very well. I didn't know anybody. I met Eduardo Machado in the acting class, John Levy in the acting. They were just student actors. And this is where I studied first with Bob Ellenstein and David Alexander mostly and his technique. And then in 1979, that's when I moved. I came here in 75. So in 79 is when I moved to New York. Mm-hmm. My mentor, Tony, was already doing, again, Man of La Mancha. He was the one who played Sancho Panza more than anybody else in the world.
Wow.
And so Richard Kiley was doing a revival, and he had done it with Kiley originally on Broadway. So they were doing it here at the Pantages, and he said, okay, I'm going cross country to New York to do the Broadway show. What do you want to do? I said, I'm going to go to New York with you. And so I got in that motorhome, and I left everything here and left for New York to study acting with Strasberg, of course. And I went to Uta Hagen's Academy also. And I did 2.5 years at the Actors Studio as a slave, I say, as a working observer, which, you're just cleaning the bathrooms so that you can get at least a free session. And you're not supposed to participate in the sessions. But back then, because now the Actors Studio is a different thing, but back then it was only by audition that you could get in. It was a workshop for professional actors only. And I got to see Elia Kazan, Strasberg, Pacino, Arthur Penn.
So you were doing master classes.
Eso. Those were the people that I would clean those toilets for. I don't care, And I ended up being in charge of the Observers program. I was doing the books then, at the end. So, I went to New York and I studied like altogether for 7 years. I studied my craft.
Wow. And you also studied the classics.
No.
You didn't study the classics.
I didn't study Shakespeare, but es que la vida, what is for you is for you no matter what.
That's right.
I didn't study Shakespeare because I was just training as an actor, discovering the new world of techniques, how to approach the material with inventive different ways. Well, I did a play, a Cuban play that was translated into English by Irene Fornes, who is a master director, writer, Cuban-American, who created avant-garde theater in the States. So because it was her directing and translating this Cuban play into English, Cold Air is the name of the play in English. In Spanish is Aire Frío, and it's the only play that I hear that the revolution allows to be shown in Cuba. or back then, whatever. I don't know. But I know that Virgilio Piñera was put in the jail, the original author, because he was a homosexual. But anyway, I was so upset at my union because they were allowing us to get $25 a week only.
This was equity.
Equity. Okay? So because Intar had lost their grants and whatnot. So we stayed in it because it was...
And
Irene
Intar at
Furness-
the time was a big
big on
Latino,
42nd Street.
Theater.
Big time. And New York Times gave me such an incredible review that Joseph Papp and his wife were interested in seeing who this actress was. My coach, Alba Oms, may she rest in peace, she gave me everything and for free. She coached me for 10 years in New York. Puerto Rican actress that belonged to the Actors Studio also.
And how did you meet her?
My first off-Broadway was with the Puerto Rican Traveling Theater when I got to New York, and she was the director. It was 3 one-act plays from Spain that were translated to English. And I booked my first Broadway while I was doing my first off-Broadway. It was because I went to a cattle call. You never know. You never know. And then I was the only Hispanic playing a French woman in the mostly Anglos who were playing Hispanics. But anyway, so I was at Intar doing a Cold Air. I got this incredible review that my coach said, Zoe Caldwell is the only one who has gotten the review. And I'm like, who is Zoe Caldwell? I didn't know anything. So she's like, no, you don't know. So because of that, Joseph Papp came to see me and invited me for his Shakespeare company. I said, I've never trained or done anything Shakespeare.
He was very generous to Latinos.
Eso, and he said,
Very
we'll
generous.
train you. They said, we want to see you in a moving piece, in a singing piece, and in a classic, which I did Medea by Jean Anouilh, and then I did a contemporary piece, The Masses Are Asses, by Pedro Pietri, which I had done already for the Puerto Rican Traveling Theater. So those monologues, everything was prepared by Alba and myself. And so I did it, and Joseph accepted me in the company. They brought a professor so that would work with me backstage while we were in the multiracial company directed by Estelle Parsons. Jeffrey Owens, actually, the actor who has claimed to fame now, was that he was working in Trader Joe's as my friend.
Yes.
He was our first Romeo. He's an extraordinary actor with an extraordinary education from Yale University. And he was the only one who really had the real training to do everything in that company. It was amazing. So I ended up doing the nurse in Romeo and Juliet. I did Phoebe and Duke Frederick in As You Like It. And in the Scottish play, I did King Duncan and Satan, which is a servant. Then we went to the parks, to the Anspacher, off-Broadway, and then we ended up on Broadway at the Belasco Theater. And there I did The Queen, Lady M, because Joseph wanted me to do it before. That was so generous of him. I also kept on playing the nurse because he kept on saying that I was the best nurse he had ever seen in his And then I graduated to become Rosalind in As You Like It. And, you know, his generosity was extraordinary with all the actors, the minority. And it was mostly for children in school. We wouldn't do it in the schools. He wanted the children in New York
to come to the theater.
Eso, and to know what to use. And usher with the ticket was, and they were encouraged to come back with their families on a Sunday because weekends were for regular audiences. And you could hear the kids out in the audience, los puertorriqueños, they would come with it was like el bautismo, parecían que iban por un bautismo, like the baby was going to be christened with the big
baptism.
Yeah, the baptism clothes for the babies and everybody. And you could hear the kids, Mom, and now Romeo is going to do this, and now Juliet is going to... So it was great to see that. And I did only one thing as a Puerto Rican playing the nurse in that world that was not particularly, it was not an adaptation, it was the real thing. But when Tybalt dies and I come to tell Juliet, I would get out of my purse a bottle of alcoholado, and that did it, because alcoholado is very Puerto Rican.
Yes.
You smell it when you're not fresh in yourself, and you because you're about to faint or whatever. So whenever I would take that bottle of alcoholado superior 70, oh my God, the whole house, the Puerto Rican, you could hear that. Oh my God! The kids would go crazy. I wanted the kids to see themselves inside of the play.
Yes.
Not observing that doesn't have anything to do. No, I belong in that world too. I could be part of it. And I wanted to show them that it was universal truth. It's a universal story that belongs to, in spite of the fact that it's so English and whatever.
You talked about having a coach for 10 years in New York. What was your process with your coach when you would get a script? What would you guys do?
Well, we would analyze the scenes into the units and the beats and see what the objective was. And then we would look for the specific actions that I could play or the specific sensorial memory that I could have work on for specific sections or for the character half of the play or at the beginning of the play do this sensorial. And the sense memory is the method acting, which she was very much in touch with. And, you know, it takes a while to get the method down, but it is very valuable. But the actions, it's the most immediate, really most serviceable technique to accomplish anything. Because if this action doesn't work, which are active verbs that you put on top of the lines, instead of playing the line, you play the action that makes that line
What
live.
you want in that
Eso.
in that beat.
So in
Yes.
that beat, exacto.
Yes.
So that's what we did. We just broke it down to the beats, to the units, to the sense memory, and to the actions that I had to take as the character. First, we would know who the character was, of course, and what was the intention of the author with the character, what was the overall intention of the whole play, and what were the immediate objectives for each chapter.
Did you also talk about the physicality of the character?
Yes, many times we would talk about the physicality because I'm a character actor. I would do different walks. I loved being in New York just because I could observe people without them knowing it, and I could follow a person and just imitate the gait. Or if there was somebody in the supermarket, an old woman that was like kind of talking to herself, I would stand there and make believe that I'm looking for something too, so that I would see exactly what. So that was what was encouraged by Alba more than anything, the observation of people, so that I could not only imitate that, but become.
Own it.
Eso, become
Yes.
them.
Yes, so you could take ownership of that.
So yes.
And so with what she taught you, because you also have coached actors.
In New York, I started to coach actors. The end of me living in New York, which was towards I lived there in the 1980s, the whole decade. But I didn't start until later, until end of the 80s, and then here in Los Angeles I coached more because then Alba was not here. It was very hard. She goes to me on the phone, she goes, Yvonne, I think you're ready. I don't think you need me anymore. You're there, I'm here in New York, so be it. We can talk about it, but it doesn't make you any service. So just go with your instinct. And that's what Strasberg would always encourage, your instinct, because he would say, don't, in your life, don't stop your instincts about things,
Trust
because
your
that's
gut.
eso. You have to trust the gut, because you're always right and people are wrong when they say, no, you're wrong, she's not that mean. Yes, she is, because if she put to you,
that's
exactamente,
right.
your gut is
That's right.
telling you.
That's
So
right.
if you don't deny it in real life, you will have the chance to access it as an actor.
And as a human being, right?
Eso, in
That's
real
the only
life.
way you survive is your gut. Because a lot of times what people are telling you is contradictory to what really is happening. And the little bells are going off.
So you have to listen to your little bells.
That's
Even
right.
if they don't go off for anybody
That's
else
right.
around you.
That's
It doesn't
right.
matter.
That's right. You
You're
have to
listening.
trust that.
Exactamente.
Yes.
Because Strasberg would always say, that's the voice of God within you. That's God speaking to you and protecting you. So listen to it. So
That's right.
who knew?
Not here.
Así el God aquí. De donde sale la vida. Where life comes from too. Huh?